What is up, everybody? Krydex here, and welcome back to pyanodon's Season 3. I've got a little bit of a, disappointment to share with you. We did not have enough time to stream more episodes, so we only had one full episode of that because we tinkered around for quite a while, and the stream was already past 3 hours, and I only had like 3.5 to 4 hours to stream, and so I was like, dang it, we can't record another one. So essentially we did conclude the experiment. Go check out the VOD of the live stream. It's on YouTube. You can go to my channel and go to the live section, and you can kind of just go towards the end if you want to kind of see some of the summaries. Basically, because what we did is not any more interesting for the rest of the video. I feel like we should have paused a couple more times in the recording anyway for yesterday's episode. But what I did is I tested, and we can't look at the charts because we're back to our version of the mod, but we essentially tested trains having 10,000% braking force and did more tests that way, because we did 3 tests with the normal way, then we did 3 tests with braking force upgrades, then I went ahead and manually set train braking force bonus to be 10,000%, and guess what, we tested it again and the numbers were not any different for utilization. And then, because science is always asking counterpoints, is always trying to make counterpoints, you have a hypothesis, but you need to try to disprove it. Good science is not proving your hypothesis, it's disproving your hypothesis and failing. That's good science. You want to say, what are all the possible ways I could be wrong? And let's try to prove myself wrong. And it's when you fail to prove yourself wrong over and over again that you've actually proven something. And, obviously at some point you still haven't proven it, but eventually when you've tried every possible way you can think of and other people can think of to prove yourself wrong, you might actually be right. Anyway, so that's what we did. So I thought to myself, how could I be wrong here? I was like, this test, we've got these charts that are showing numbers. I'm like, what if the braking force is improving my trains, but all it's doing is it's making it so that items end up in blocks sooner, so then they do their processing sooner, so then they generate another train trip because they now have items that are like ready to be trashed or ready. Well, I guess my trashing wasn't really working right anyway, except the old trashing stations. Anyway, maybe they're generating new requests sooner just because they're getting the requests sooner. And so really, even though the braking force has improved my train traffic, what it hasn't done is it's not showing up on that chart. So that's what I was curious about. And so what I did to test that is I went into the game files and I made it so that locomotives had insane acceleration and top speed. They went 1,500 kilometers an hour and accelerated at 6.5 gigawatts of acceleration. So they were almost instant. I mean, it would take like 3 seconds for a train to get from like here. It would be like zoop, and it would stop instantly because I still had the braking force upgraded. And so then my theory was that if that decreased the train utilization, then that would prove braking force wasn't doing anything. Because the idea is like, well, now items are getting there even sooner, but if my theory that items getting there sooner actually wouldn't help utilization, if that was true, then the numbers would stay the same, even as trains got faster. So the numbers did not stay the same as trains got faster. The numbers went way down. They were like 40% or 50, low 50, high 40% for the utilization. And remember, there's a floor for that, even if trains could teleport, which is kind of what they were doing anyway. Utilization is still going to be some percentage above 0 because the loading and unloading takes time. So that's always going to be some percentage of utilization just to load and unload trains, even if they teleported. So all that to say, when we increased acceleration and speed and braking, the utilization went down. When we increased braking, the utilization did not go down. So what that means is braking does nothing. Or at least I would rephrase as, it does nothing measurable. I actually have comfortably proven and I didn't do this on episode, but I spent 10 hours being nerd sniped, as I said. I've comfortably proven that braking force will always help you. There is no scenario where braking force can hurt you. That requires air resistance to be true while you are braking. But since it's not, since air resistance is disabled while you're braking, or it's, I should rephrase as, it's not measured while a train is actively braking. Therefore, braking force can only help you. So the upgrades will do something. If you're like worried about your upgrades being worthless, they're not literally worthless. They're just close to worthless. You know, you'd get more benefit for train traffic by adding one random elevated rail overpass than doing 10 braking force upgrades. Like, that's the level of worthless we're talking. Because even the 10,000% braking force upgrade did not produce... Did I actually say this yet in this episode? We did the 10,000% braking force. And we did 3 measurements with that one. Actually, I only did 1 measurement with that one. But that measurement had higher numbers than the other numbers. So it did not produce an appreciable boost in train speed. And then we did a little bit more noodling for the next half hour, just rambling about things. So I kind of figured that, like, realistically, the time when braking force is going to matter the most is actually when trains have really bad acceleration and really high top speed. Those are the scenarios where braking force matters the most, because the higher the top speed, the further, you know what? Can I show you guys this? We might be able to. It's gonna be in here somewhere. Train braking distance. Yeah, you see that red dot? That red dot is how far the train has reserved ahead of it. So that red dot goes a little bit closer when we upgrade braking force. And that means the trains are reserving a little bit less space. So that helps slightly with train traffic. But you can see the overall time that that train is occupying that block is already such a tiny amount. You know, it's like, it would go from like 2.2 seconds to 2.12 seconds or something. And so overall, braking force just doesn't help that much if your top speeds are already aren't that high. If our top speed was way higher, that dot would be way further out in the front. And in that case, the braking force upgrades would help a little bit more in terms of, like, I don't know, you could, I'm going to call this the ghost train. The ghost train has a certain length, right? And in this case, it's about, I don't know, what is that, like 60 meters for when they're at top speed? And that's with no braking force upgrades. It can already brake from its top. Oh, well, we can't see that one anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, the fluid wagons have a worse braking distance. You see that? That's actually really interesting. Because the fluid wagon itself has worse brakes than the tier 2 cargo wagons. And there's 2 of them. Now that is an interesting meatball. Interesting spicy meatball right there. Yeah, I would be curious to run the test with a more congested train network as well. That, like, maybe sometime in the future we can try that. There's a lot of other tests we could have run. My test felt conclusive enough for, like, most reasonable bases. Anyway, so all that to say, that's our ghost train. And so the ghost train gets a lot longer when top speed goes up. And if acceleration is worse, did you see that right there? We didn't actually come to a full stop. So higher braking force means that we could have waited longer until we started braking. And then that means when the other train cleared the intersection, assuming that time is the same, we would have been at a higher speed at the point the train cleared, and therefore not needed to have accelerated as much once we start accelerating to get back to top speed. So those things combined make braking force kind of keep you at higher speeds while you're sort of waiting for other trains but not coming to a complete stop. So all that to say, if your acceleration is really bad, then that comes into play more. And if your top speed is really high, then the braking force boost to ghost train shortening is better. So those are my musings summarized. Don't worry, they were a lot longer in the full video if you want to see them. So yeah, that's where that ended. And then I did one task because I didn't want to play 0 of the actual game. I didn't just want to play Scientist all stream. So we added, what's this called? We added styrene, which is needed for rubber 3, and I also redid ethylene. For some reason, I was making ethylene with the BTX and Nexilate way instead of this way. I am not sure why. I think it might be because when we first needed ethylene, iron oxide wasn't something we could produce easily yet. So I thought to myself, BTX and Nexilate is cheaper. And this one does not even accept productivity, and this one does. So it felt like a no-brainer to switch it over. This one's just a little slower, but with the beauty of, you know, speed beacons, it was pretty easy to set up. And then we had to switch out the Nexilate for iron oxide, and then thankfully the iron oxide also goes into the styrene, so that was pretty easy to set up. And so now we've got styrene output ready to go in this train system as soon as we research it, which is going to be in rubber 3. So as soon as that gets researched, it'll be ready to go. And then I guess we should finish the rubber 3 build before we even get there. There's something really satisfying for me when we've done a build before we even research it. So as soon as the research hits, it's already going. So let's do that. Also, okay, good. Oh, tiles. 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 All right, first of all, got some extra bots. Oh, they placed 2 at once. Cool. All right, anyway, so I just want to make sure all the stuff is double prodded. I don't need creamy latex to be prodded. Yeah, everything's double prodded in rubber, so that's good. Except for... I guess none of these can be prodded. I thought maybe one of them could, but I don't think that's true. Okay, never mind. Alright, so then... what am I changing? Well, I'm imagining the new recipe. Oh, by the way, how much faster is it? Oh my gosh, it's 2.5 times faster. On top of everything. This is such a good recipe. Okay, so this will be here. And as far as fluids, the polybutadiene is this one. The styrene is the one with the circle chain. So it actually does go like that. Okay, and then we're gonna need salt and phenol. So why don't we request those? Do I have room in this guy? I'm gonna say no on that one. Let's just get a new requester going here. And this needs to be moved. All right, strong side request. Let's see, merge that. Phenol is free, basically, because we make a lot of ammonia and stuff with it. We'll say 25 stacks. And what was the other thing? Oh, saline water, actually. So... we're gonna need another requester. Okay, and this is gonna need saline water and styrene. All right. Easy enough. And then this is something we just broke, and it was doing what? It was bringing something to somewhere. I think it was doing anthracene down somewhere. Yeah, it was anthracene down to here. So we can rebuild. We have the technology for it to go. Actually, why don't I do something like this? Okay. So that's the anthracene filled up. This guy's ready to go. And then given the speed, I'm not going to upgrade these buildings given the speed that we're about to gain from the recipe being faster. I don't really feel the need to upgrade these to tier 2 buildings. All we'll need to do is switch over the org solve and then turn the saline water into salt, which is an evaporator. The recipe does have 4 solids, so I'm gonna have to get a little creative here. So right now the carbon black is coming in on this belt, and the regular rubber is leaving on this belt. So I'm gonna have to put the other 3 ingredients on this side. Latex, annoyingly, I'm gonna have to do this with, so we have room for a long belt. We'll do this. And then this will be the belt. Or whatever the other inputs are, the phenol and the salt. Okay. And then I'm gonna switch over to fast inserters here, just to make sure things are a hunky-dory. And then longy boy. And then we got our evap friend. And I don't know. Have I put any beacons down? I've probably got some over here. What speed are these again? 23 a second. I'm having a feeling like that's gonna be enough for like infinite rubber. Yeah, that's enough for 23 rubber a second. Okay. Should be fine. Alright. Okay, so now I do have... This is an interesting place to be. So I just researched... Whoa, where'd it go? Often the ones you research end up at the bottom. But this one did not. I don't even see it. Didn't it need chemical science? That the one we just researched? Am I taking crazy pills? Was that a pi? Oh, it didn't. It was a pi 1. Okay. My bad. So these generate 125 megawatts of... Oh, sorry. That's consuming heat. These produce heat. No. Wait, what? What produces the heat? Oh, we don't have anything that produces the heat except nuclear right now. Never mind. Is that true? If I type heat... I think that's true. So we couldn't even run thermal furnaces right now. Basically, I was thinking there could be times where thermal furnaces could be nice because they have a crafting speed of 8, which is pretty bonkers fast. I don't know if they're affected by modules. I'm gonna guess they're not. Let's check on that real quick. Faster to check here than anywhere else. Thermal furnace plus a beacon. Plus speed modules. Yeah, not affected by modules, which is not surprising at all. But the only thing we have so far that actually makes heat that we could pass to those is nuclear. Now, to be fair, it makes a crap ton of heat. And these are 200% efficient. And those are 4 gigajoules. So how much smelting, how much thermal furnace could I run with 1 uranium fuel cell? Because 4 gigajoules times 2, efficiency 200%. And that's even without a neighbor bonus. That is kind of nuts. So that'll run for 100 seconds on a gigajoule, which means 400 seconds, which means 800 seconds on a 200% efficiency 4 gigajoule fuel cell. That's a lot. So we said 100, 400, 800 times crafting speed of 8. We get 6,400 crafting seconds from 1 uranium fuel cell. That sounds like a lot, but then you realize that, where am I looking? Smelting. Where do we have some foundries? Do we have foundries here, or is it just smelteries? I thought something needed foundries, but maybe that's not true. I actually am gonna have to factory search for foundry. I don't remember. There's something that I'm using these for. Oh, is it Sam? I think it's Sam, actually. I think I just remembered. Mono layer. Yeah. So these guys, and this is beaconless right now, which is not the most optimal. So let's imagine the crafting speed was just the same, and the power was this, or the crafting speed was 2, and the power was the same. So these have a crafting speed of 2 for only 18 megawatts. Again, if you do a speed beacons, it'll bring up the ratio closer towards what I just said. It's probably not quite that good, but closer to that. And so, like, that's only 4 times worse, and then we're using electricity. So, like I just said, we would get 6,400 crafting seconds from one of those fuel cells. Well, with this, I get 2 crafting seconds per second from a single, you know, solar panel. So it's like, I don't know. Do we really need to use nuclear heat to power thermal furnaces? Maybe if I ever need a giant project, or if I wanted to. And is nuclear fuel even cheap? I forget, like, how much is one of them? How much does one cost? It's a banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10? So we need, yeah, I think they'll be really cheap once we can reprocess some stuff. We just can't reprocess stuff yet. I've got so many. Holy crap. Because I didn't limit that. Anyway, so 10 yellow cake gets me 1, 2, 3, 5 per yellow cake, basically. And a single 2, 3, 5 is what? So 3 is 1.2. I'm gonna say that's close enough to 1.5 where it's like you need 2 uranium to get 1 fuel cell. And that's it. That's the answer. So 2 yellow cake to get a fuel cell. Roughly. I'm doing that math right, yeah? 10% for 10 uranium-235. Yeah, that's right. Which then makes 3 craftings of this, which is then about 4. Well, that's closer to accurate. Yeah, it's pretty close to 4 from 10 yellow cake. So how hard is 10 yellow cake? I don't really remember. So this makes 0.52 a second from 3.5 powdered uranium. This makes 1.05 powdered uranium from 4.38 ore. And that does make 4.8 ore from just electricity. Wait, 3.5, but I'm only getting 1. Okay, so this is going, you know, I can just do this. Let's be smart about this. So 0.16 a second yellow cake out is our max. Which we just said 1 yellow cake, a 10 yellow cake gets me 4, so 1 yellow cake gets me 0.4. That's not bad. Even at my current rate of generation, I could make 0.16 yellow cake a second. Limiting factor is the crushers. Okay. Why don't we upgrade this? Hold on, what's the ratio here? 3, 2.5, 2.5. That's close enough that I don't think it's worth switching anything too crazy. If anything, I bet I can do something like this and that like fixes the ratios if we don't beacon the other ones. Yeah, much closer. In fact, the other ones are limited. Why don't we just go for it? Full upgrade. So now we've got a need for more uranium ore, which previously was a bit of an issue, I think, because of power cost. But now, I'd say not so much. Oh my gosh. I can prod. Do I need to prod these? We have 23 million uranium, so I'm going to guess we don't need prod on that. And instead, we can throw in some efficiency. So 4 of these is minus 120. It's still not enough to counteract a single. That's minus 150. And then a single speed module will change it to minus 50. It's crazy. So this is still a little inefficient. In fact, I'd probably be better off doing beacons for this. But I've never had a building that can hold 6 modules, so I'm kind of excited about that. So I'm going to let it happen. And those 3 together will get us 20, which stack size of 4. We're good to go on that. Okay, so that'll make 2.7 powdered uranium, which is still not enough for these buildings, but it's closer. That'll get us 0.4 a second yellow cake. And math-wise, we said that is actually 0.4 fuel cells per yellow cake. So that's how many fuel cells times 4 gigajoules times 200% efficiency. So right now we could sustain 1.28 gigawatts of heat energy, which would be enough to run 1,280 thermal furnaces constantly. That's pretty cool. Not that it matters, but it's pretty cool. I thought I had already done this. I guess not. Whoa, wrong kind of upgrade plan. Gotta make sure to just hit the buildings. And then, is there a way I can fit a beacon in between? It would be much better if we could. Move that to there. And now I just need this to move one tile over. So that doesn't actually work though. I guess it can if I move the power pole and I do a weirdo inserter. I grab like that. That's probably the second most common. You know, I do 90 degrees and then I've done a decent amount of this one where it grabs and drops from one ahead into a head. I find that to be quite handy as well. Like if I was having to purchase one at a time features from Bob's Inserters, the first one and most important one for me would be 90 degrees. The second one would be the lane control offset. Because I use the left and right offset pretty frequently to make sure if you're inserting in line, you know, with a 90 degree, it goes onto the correct lane. And then also I use the front back offset, you know, just to make that simpler. And then the third thing I would purchase would probably be this shape of inserter, the one ahead into a head version. All right, so this way I can do a 4 AM, because AM4 would not have reached both buildings. Yeah. So that's 0.8, which should get us, what kind of speed are we talking? 0.8 times 80 is 64%. So that'll more than compensate for the prod modules. Yeah, that should be a good deal. Okay. Fluorinated water, basically free now that I have lots of plastic. Hey, now these only use 90 megawatts, and they give us 40% more for their efforts. All right, how we doing? How we doing? By the way, what does Radar 2 even do? 832 compared to 314. Wow, that is a big difference. That is a big difference. MEGADARs are pretty cool, I won't lie. 32 is a lot. So these are going 14. So that's 14. This space here. So 28 would be double that, which would go to about here-ish. And then it goes even a little further. So 32 will go to about here. Holy cow. And it'll do, that's a radius. So it'll do the same amount down and the same amount up. So we'll probably want to plop a MEGADAR at some of our corners of the base, like the furthest the bot network can reach. And that'll give us some good exploration into new territories. Not that I need much more than what I already have, but it could find me, you know, an iron patch that's like 105 million that is going to last me the rest of the game instead of just like maybe half of the game kind of thing. There is a 93 million up here, I guess. But you know, I think we've already got most of the resources we need. Anyway, did we finish this? Or did I just end up getting totally distracted? No, we got distracted. Okay. So, we need salt per rubber. And then we need the phenol. And what's the ratio of that? 4 phenol to 10 rubber. Okay, so something like this should work. And then I'll need a red belt. Ooh. All right, so we now are ready for rubber stage 3 as soon as it's researched. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. All right, I gotta pause the recording real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. For you guys, that was no time at all, but I did like a lot of things right there. All right, so where were we? Megadars are about to be done. Can we make them even? Yeah. Yeah, let's get some Megadars, just because I think they're neat. Where should we put them? Maybe with the trains, kind of weird stuff. I think 2 will be plenty. We'll go to like 4. 1 for each corner of the base, once in a while. And then what's next? Then comes Fiberboard 2. We should get that set up. Yeah. Fiberboard 2. So where are we making Fiberboard these days? Couple places. I think we said we'd import Fiberboard maybe later. I don't know what happened here. But yeah, this is the main place we make it. So so the recipe changes from treated wood, raw fiber, hydroxide to make 4 to treated wood, raw fiber, hydroxide, and a sulfate to make 8. So we're essentially getting 4 fiberboard from 1 sodium sulfate and a tiny bit of hydroxide. And then that means we don't get the extra output. It does craft twice as fast. So that means we use less treated wood, less fiber, less steam. I don't really care about the steam. And then finally, I wanted to look at sulfate. So sulfate is just salt and sulfuric acid. That's it. One sodium sulfate, though, is 15 salt. Is that worth it? Like, I'm basically saying 15. We already said we didn't like the anthraquinone one, partially because it also boosts the treated wood, and the fiber instead of raw fiber is part of the issue. And anthraquinone is just not that cheap because of the anthracene and the chromite. Like, it's not insanely expensive, but surely that's just, you know, worse than paying a little bit more of these very base level ingredients that are just salt and wood and a little bit of creosote for treated wood. Because the treated wood ratio doesn't even get better there. It actually gets worse, technically. So, yeah, that's just not a great boost. I think this one should be quite a bit better. Or allow for productivity. You know, if this one allowed for productivity, then it'd feel like, oh yeah, that gets stronger as the game goes on and you get a better percentage out of it. Because 20%, you know, immediately would get you to 14.4 output, and then it would only get better from there. So that's, you know, theoretically maybe reasonable, but at this stage it's just not. I'm just trying to decide, do I really even think this is worth it? I mean, 15 salt added into this. I guess so, because like treated wood is kind of annoying because of 50 creosote a piece. So we're kind of saving ourselves 150 creosote by adding in that 50. And salt is super free. That's the other thing. Salt is super free. So let's just do it. We are going to need to import not steam, and instead we will make steam on site. And here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking a 5-1. That's the same as 1 module applied to each at 2.5 megawatts. And then I can do this. Well, how much steam do I need? Actually, yeah, I do need a lot of steam for this. So we'll do that. We'll do that. I'm gonna make this super easy on my hotkeys here. And then we can delete this steam request. The water request is gone. We delete that. We now hook this directly up to you. And then we change you to the new fluid that I was going to request, which is saline water. And then we need an evaporator again. And that's going to bring salt onto probably this belt, which is probably going to be belt upgraded. Be faster. Definitely don't need that guy or that guy if that's a red belt. And then saline water is needing to fill this thing and go down and over and in and to unload and upgrade. It's so funny, that's like the fastest way to, oh, what? Okay, that's fine. That's how starch is supposed to work. Don't freak out. I am doing the new one, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's all set up. Power up all of this, and then we're gonna need a couple pumps. And I'm realizing we don't actually need to connect them if we do it this way. Just kind of, I don't know, satisfying a little bit. All right, and then the steam is hooked up to both, and then that's all good, and that's got the, we need to power up the evaporator. And that'll offload the salt onto the side of that belt. I'm gonna upgrade all the inserters here. Doobie doobie doo. Where's? Oh, it's a special book. You know what? I wonder if we should put that special book on the thing. And then I need to name them. Tree rock decon. And then inserters blue. I guess, does the icon work when I'm scrolling through like that? No, it doesn't. So you need the name to be correct. That is kind of annoying. I wish it would show the correct icon. So anyway, the sodium sulfate needs to get loaded on with the... Wait, I'm adding two... Wait, what am I doing? Guys, what am I doing? How long have you been screaming at your screens? Tell me. Tell me in the comments. How long were you screaming? Full volume. Waking up the neighbor's baby because of how stupid I am. Again, I need to stop using the word stupid. Not a kind word for myself, but good gravy. If my head wasn't attached, so they say. This needs to be a filter. I'm just gonna do it this way. I think that is the simplest way to solve this problem. And it already has power, so that's good to go. And I'm gonna go over there and fix my salty mistake, my distilled engineer tears, as they're called in the game accurately. Can't believe what I just did. Now, if you don't even know what I'm talking about because you were only paying half attention and this is on your second monitor and you're like, wait, what did Krydex do? I wasn't, you know, watching what he did in ridiculousness. The answer is, ooh, that was kind of a cool starfish of salt. The answer is, I said to myself a few minutes ago that, oh, I just need salt to create, you know, the extra cost for the fiberboard. And then somehow my brain kind of internalized that as like, I actually need salt as an ingredient. We don't need salt as an ingredient. We just need sodium sulfate. That's the only difference. We add in 1 sodium sulfate and the hydroxide ratio is actually better. Instead of 6, we only need 5. The raw fiber and the treated wood are literally half, and everything else is the same. So literally all I need to do is put sulfate on that belt. That's the only thing I needed to do. But my brain said I need salt. And so then I imported saline water and set up an evaporator and did all that work for nothing. You know, just normal Krydax stuff. I did need the steam at least, so that wasn't completely wasted effort. Oh man, crazy stuff, crazy stuff. So that'll get done here in a little bit, and now I can make a MEGADAR. I feel like I want to call it Megalodar. I do wish map view would show you radar range, because it's completely useless on the mini map here. Actually, it looks like it. No, that's the constant range is one mini map full. Yeah, so it's useless in that context. But let's throw one in the top here, and we'll throw one on the right here, and then we'll throw one. I think one on the left side of this is probably the spot for it. Also, how fast do they scan? That's not something it tells you in its stats either. So here's our little bot. We can follow him. Follow him as he goes all the way up. Good job, Tim. You're doing it. You're doing it. Wait, where'd he go? Sorry, I got distracted. They do take a while to charge. The idea of upgrading all of these is really painful, on top of the fact that if I use Super Force build, which is the only way you can kind of replace them, is there's a chance I delete important stuff. So I'm gonna basically have to go through one by one, making the blueprint to replace these, and then make sure I'm not pasting over important factory stuff. Plop. Okay, scanning rate looks like it's about double, maybe. That finishes one. It actually might be like triple. So finish. Finish. And then this one is... What a cool graphics, by the way. Very cool graphics. Yeah, it's about 3 times faster, is my guess. I really am sad that Pi made a lot of these graphics before high-res sprites were a thing. Now, to be fair, I don't know if Pi could handle high-res sprites either. You know, just because of how graphically intensive all the sprites for Pi combined are. But it is a little bit, you know, when you look at this, it's so crisp, and then you look at this and it's a little blurry and stuff. It looks great when you're zoomed out, though. But from full zoom, it's not quite there. But yeah, so this should give us some serious... Wow, look at that. That's the range of just the constant reveal. Compared to a normal radar, which is this. It's basically 4 radars put together. Alright, we'll discover some new stuff over time. And how's our inventory looking? Uh-oh. Where's that parameter 1? Wait, does that say in... Oh, I thought it said in transit for a second. I was like, that's not right. That can't actually be in transit. Things don't work that way. Uh-oh. My alarm's going off to switch around my laundry. No, this needed a parameter or something. Actually, benzene... let's do something weird. Okay, so Fiberboard 2 will be done in a second, and then I can switch over those recipes. I'm not making styrene yet, so that's expected. Substrate. We should have substrate. Our new build is broken. Yeah, it is. I'm not dealing with BioCrud out. In fact, I just completely spaced that there's an option for BioCrud at all. What the heck? That's really weird. Not once did my brain consider BioCrud. I don't even know, like... Wow. It's the cellulose. Like, I forgot that cellulose makes BioCrud. So... I certainly understand why it happened, but it is a bit weird, I think, that I spaced this. But that should fix the problem. Is there power to all those inserters? Yes. Biocrud is removed from the only places it could go. These are filtered out, so it's not like Biocrud's going to get somewhere it shouldn't be. And those are... Oh, yeah, my illegal 45-degree inserters. I could move the building down a tile and use a 90-degree, actually. In fact, it wouldn't change a single thing. I guess it would affect it. I just have to shift those out of the tile and those out of the tile. So I could have used 90 degrees there. Okay, so that fixes the substrate problem. How long was that broken? That was broken for a while. 2.5 hours. It only ran for like half an hour before it broke. Okay. Well, the good news is it'll ramp right back up to 800 a minute pretty quick. So it'll be fine eventually. Just take a while again. Okay, so that's fixed. And then plutonium-239 is not running. But these are running, so I don't know if there's much else I can do. When do I get neutron absorber 2? That is a prod psi thing, so not for a very long time. So I will have to scale these up by a much larger amount before then. That being said, though, there's another nuclear recipe I get in Pi 3, I think, right? Yes. And in this one, we have options. We can do some different stuff with the Pure X. And Pure X plutonium, Pure X concentrate. We have a different way to make plutonium peroxide. We can make plutonium dioxide. MOX plutonium oxide, which comes from high energy waste, which comes from spent MOX reactor fuel and lithium peroxide. Which, I don't know what lithium peroxide is. Oh god, we're gonna have to make lithium. Cool. Cool. Spent reactor fuel. Nuclear MOX reactor. Wait, am I spending the salt? Is it consuming the salt? I'm interested how these buildings work, because recipe-wise, it's not actually doing any. I assume the building needs fuel, though, and it just runs a recipe with that fuel or something. You can make hot neutrons and a neutron moderator. This one is interesting because it allows you to get americium-241 out of the plutonium-241. This allows us to get 242 into americium-243 and helium. Consumes uranium hex. Oh, I see. They consume different things. They consume fluids. Oh, there you go. Fuel rod Mark II needs americium-243. Different kind of coated container. I thought something in here, I guess I'm wrong. I thought there was something in this chain that gave us new ways to get to loop around uranium. Oh, maybe it is with the concentrate stuff. We don't need the initial uranium to keep the plutonium loop going. That might be what it is. Uranium hexafluoride, plutonium dioxide, and that's also uranium hexafluoride. So a nuclear reactor consumes the same fuel as a MOX reactor. You can go back and forth. Oh, you can go back and forth. Never mind. They're the same reactor. It's just one consumes plutonium dioxide, the other consumes uranium hexafluoride. In the uranium hexafluoride, plutonium dioxide is 239 and a bunch of 238. And it's 10,000 degrees. And it has a heat capacity of 80 joules per Celsius. We're gonna have to do some math here. So 80 joules per Celsius. So it's 80 times 10,000. So it's really 800 times 1,000. So we've got, why is this so hard? 800 times 1,000, 800,000, 800 kilojoules per unit. And we get 250 of them. So that's 800 kilojoules, add 2 zeros is 8 megajoules. 80 megajoules times 2.5 is 200 megajoules. So one recipe of this is 200 megajoules of like power, quote unquote, for the nuclear reactor. So it could run this nuclear MOX reactor. One of these recipes can run this. We just said 200 megajoules. It'll run it for about about 666 seconds. Okay. So that'll run for 10 minutes off of one recipe of this. And it has a crafting speed of 1. I'm a little concerned. I assume we get the salt back somehow. There's no way we consume that salt. Surely. I don't know, maybe it does. It's a 20-second recipe. And we get spent reactor fuel. I'm missing something. Where do we get the power from? Neutron moderators eat control rods. Good times, good times. To heat up the neutrons, but then I'm not entirely clear where the power comes from in any of this. I'm interested in it. It's cool, but I don't really know where the power comes from. Because these are not used in any of the buildings, so it's not from those. Is this just a bunch of new ways to... do we still use breeder reactors? There's no other place to burn those. Is this just a bunch of ways to manage all of the different spicy rocks? Is that all nuclear is? All right. I know, I need to do my laundry. I keep hitting snooze and it's not snoozing very long. Or time just passes faster when you're pyanodonsing. Yeah, because I think this is just all spicy rock management is all this is. I don't think any of this actually makes power. It's possible there's something I'm missing here. Because there's this nuclear reactor, which consumes stuff to run the recipe, which then is like this. So it's going to consume uranium hexafluoride. It does. And then what's the spent reactor fuel do? Ah, here we go. Oh, the high energy waste. Yeah, I did already see that. Right. And that gets us a crap ton of hot molten salt. There you go. That's what happens. So this spits out hot molten salt. So we do get all the salt back. And yeah, it's 1-to-1. So all the salt comes back through this. And then we get an absurd amount of hot molten salt. And it's 5,000 degree hot molten salt. So we won't even be able to take full advantage of the temperature for a while. Unless there's a new recipe that comes in nuclear. No, there's not. So at pi3, I will be able to get this one, which utilizes 3,000 degree. So, I mean, how much power does this thing make if you can actually get it running? So, just trying to get a grasp on this. So the 3,000 degree heat exchanger Mark II, we're gonna need these to be faster. So let's imagine a little faster here. So, because we're gonna be making, I mean, is there a world where this ever would run constantly? I have no idea. That's that's 60 a second uranium hexafluoride. No, that's up to 60 a second. Sorry, it won't actually be 60 a second, will it? The uranium hexafluoride is also 10,000 degrees, which means 200 kilojoules per unit. So no, it'll only consume 1.5 a second to run at max speed. And then that's making 20, which would be 2 of these. And then these are making 2,000 a second salt, which is going to be roughly 6 of these. It's actually going to build these. I don't want it to build these. So that's that. One more. Okay, so that's making about 1.5K pressurized steam. And then, do my current ones handle that temperature, or does it need to be a Mark III? These can only handle temperatures of 2K. So it would be a Mark III. But I don't know if I'm gonna have those at this point. This is not, oh no, I will. Okay, it'll be late in this tech tier. It'll be late in Pi 3 because it's got blue circuits in there. But we will be able to make one. Oh my gosh, these are crazy expensive though. I mean, I don't know what this is, but 750 of them? Jeez. So yeah, we'll make like 1 of these. Or 2 for all time. But by itself, it can make 143 gigawatts. So like, we're not going to need very many of them. So this alone can consume all the junk. And we said that junk is about how much? About 1.5K junk, which is about 1/4 of this, which is about 70 to 36 gigawatts from this setup. That's a lot of power. And that's just from this nuclear. That's not counting the breeder reactor stuff. That's not counting any of that. This one. What's this get us? Oh, that consumes 750 kilowatts. I didn't catch that correctly. So the spent MOX reactor fuel also gets you 5,000 degree salt in the same way. I don't know why this one's so much faster, but it is. It's the same thing. So these produce the same amount of power. because we get the same amount of salt at the same temperature. So it's just whichever one you can provide. Wow, this is a lot of power. I mean, I don't know if you can, I don't know if they're made to run one of each and that just somehow balances out and everything. We haven't looked into those chains at all. But if it does all work that way, at tier 3, you end up with roughly 72 gigawatts from that. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, I think we're gonna call it there. Let's switch over our fiberboard recipe now that that's done. And this should be enough fiberboard for a very long time, now that that sulfate's added in. And yeah, LTN's caught up on substrate already. Iron plates? No, now that's gotta be fake news. Yeah, that's fake news. Oh, it's on channel 2. Wait, no. It just was taking a second. I don't like how long some of these are taking. Small parts could actually be an issue. That's 45 seconds with no schedule. That's a long time. Seems bad. Why is this not in transit yet? Now we're at 1:15. Huh. What is going on? Oh, it's not the small parts' fault. I see. I see. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. These take a while to unload. They really do. We're doing our best here, but they take a while. It's like, get this crap out of here, and it still takes forever. Can I make it even faster? Look, I should have set this one up differently so that I could have the output. In fact, maybe I still can. Maybe I still can. I think I'm gonna kind of get this set up for doing something different here. I am gonna have to manually go. Do I have time for this? Yeah, we'll do this real quick. Insert Mr. Incredible. I got time meme as usual. I feel like that's just always me. That is my constant state of being. Alright, so this can be transferred over pretty easily. We just need to wire up this guy to these guys. Snooze the alarm, hopefully for the last time. Merge these. Wire up the chest. Take these out. Move this. And these. And then that gives us a little bit more wiggle room here. So now how do I take advantage of that wiggle room? I guess we need to shift all this a couple tiles over. Make this bigger. And then we need to access these guys. I only get 2 more spots? Nah, we can do better than that. We can get a 3rd there. I have a bunch of spots on this side, but they're hard to access. Because I'd have to come in from above, and like there's not a lot of easy ways to do that. But I could get 1 belt coming this way and then up. Yeah. There we go. There's 1 more. Okay. So there's 1. There's ooh. This isn't gonna work, is it? I mean, all the way from there. Yeah, from the top rope. Alright, so there's 2. I know this is kind of ridiculous, but it's gonna work. Here's 1. Here's 2. This one needs to go all the way out to there and then down. Okay, so there's 2, and then the other 2 can just be here. And so now I can load 4 out. I kind of don't like the idea that, let's see, can I do this? I don't like the idea that this one is the close and these are both the far. I kind of want to have 1 of each. So maybe I have this one be that far one. And then this one goes here. And then this one, is this gonna work? This might not work. I guess this one can be that close, and then this becomes that. Okay. I believe we've done it. Oh, 2 more belts. Okay. So there we go. Load in, load in. These need to be loaders. And those go on a crazy magical journey. They get loaded. Alright, so we just improved by another 60 a second per wagon, another 120 a second. That should help. That should help. After 20 seconds, that's a couple stacks of ash less. That's ridiculous stuff. This is the only time I kind of want cranes. Most of the time I don't care, but this one, between the bricks and the ash, I think cranes would be nice. All right, we're gonna call that an episode. As always, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next episode.